I'm Sergeant Scott J. Christman, Waterway Conservation Officer of the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission.
I'm Jeremy Yohe. I actually used to volunteer prior to applying to the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. I used to volunteer and help stock trout. I'm an avid outdoorsman. Through my volunteer time, the WCO back in my home district encouraged me to reach out and apply. I actually was interested in the deputy program at first. When I submitted my information, they wrote back and said that I'd be a great candidate and asked if I'd be interested in a full-time position. And 14 years later, here we are.
I was always inspired to do this job since I was 12 years of age. I grew up in a very rural area. It was a farming area where I grew up, and there was a trout stream there, and trout fishing was a way of life. And I always looked ahead for when we were going to stock the streams, and I'd actually go out and help the fish. It was, at that time, it was called the Pennsylvania Fish Commission. And through that experience with my family, being involved in fishing and hunting and helping stocking the streams, it led me to this path here that I'm in this capacity as today. I truly enjoy the job that I'm doing. Been on a good number of years, and I would encourage anybody, if they have any concerns or whatever, if they would like to pursue a career in environmental law enforcement, I would highly recommend that they do so. Prior to me going into this position, I was a deputy sheriff, and that position as a deputy sheriff gave me a good learning experience as to what the roles I can accomplish in this position as I'm in today.
Prior to launching your boat, you want to make sure that all of your safety equipment is on board and in order. First, make sure that you have an appropriate wearable life jacket for all persons that are going to be on board, and that it's sized appropriately. Make sure that your throwable device is out and immediately accessible to the operator. Make sure that everything works, including your horn and your navigation lights, the white rear light and the red and green front lights that indicate your direction so that you can boat safely. Prior to launching the boat, you also want to make sure that your drain plug is in place so that you don't sink while you're out on the water. Make sure that before you launch your boat, you check over the hull, making sure that there's no cracks or other visible damage that could again lead to water intruding and getting into your bilge. Make sure that your bilge pump works as necessary, and make sure that you are, again, properly hydrated and prepared to go out and boat for the day.
Most boats do have radios on them that they can get weather alerts and so forth, but in the event that a storm may be approaching, you be aware of it.
An additional safety measure that you can take would be leaving a float plan with your vehicle or with a friend or neighbor. And that would have information like a contact, a type of boat, the description of your boat, the automobile and trailer information for your vehicle that may be parked at an access area, where you intend to leave from and return to in the event that you're on a river where you're not going to retrieve at the same place you launched, and projected stops along your way, emergency contact, and most importantly, when you plan to return so that someone would know that there may have been a problem. You can find a copy of the courtesy float plan on the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission website at fishandboat.com. Right here at our boat launch, we have some markers that are either regulatory or informational. If you pan out, you'll see that there are red and green buoys. Those are channel markers. Those are going to give you a safe route in and out of the boat launch. And you'll also see that there are some regulatory markers that indicate that this cove area is a slow, no wake area. Additionally, here there is a swim area adjacent to the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission launch. And if you pan to the right there, you'll see that there is a restricted area that says boats keep out. We picked a day with relatively light traffic, but when we're out and about, we just are casually observing the boats looking for any, again, operational issues. We patrol around the perimeter of the lake, looking for violations within that slow no wake zone outside of the residence docks. Harvey's Lake does have a special regulation that puts a speed limit on the weekends and holidays. And additionally, one unique regulation here is that at night, all boats are required to travel at that slow no wake speed. It's important to remember that our patrol boats are equipped with blue lights and sirens. In the event that a WCO would like you to stop to perform a vessel inspection or to address a potential violation, it's important to remember that if you see that flashing blue light or hear that audible siren, that you are to stop your boat immediately and turn off your motor. You'll see that various docks along the way have what we call an aid to navigation, or that slow no wake buoy. It's important to remember that if you choose to put one of them out, that you are required to obtain a permit. There's a very nominal fee for that. It helps us with record keeping and helps us identify who the buoy belongs to should it break free from its mooring and drift away. It's important to remember also that your navigation lights are required to be run from sunset to sunrise and during periods of reduced visibility. It looks like we have a storm rolling in, so we're going to head back to shore. And at this time, I will turn my navigation lights on, just so that in the event that it were to darken quickly, other boats would be able to see us and know our direction of travel. While you're on the water, it's really important to keep an eye on the weather. Just before departing today, we actually looked at the weather and it looked like we had a pretty good window, and we've only been out here a short while and we already have a storm rolling in. So be mindful of that. Oftentimes while you're out on the water, weather can come quickly. One of the primary things that we look for is impaired operators out on the water. Just like operating a vehicle on the roads of the Commonwealth, you can be arrested for violating Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Code, whereas you are operating a watercraft under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Just like the state troopers on the highway, we have a battery of tests called the seated battery, where we can look for signs of impairment while we're out on the water. We also carry PBTs, just like the state police or the municipal police officers, where we can use that as another key in collecting evidence to determine whether or not an operator is impaired and whether or not they need to be placed under arrest and taken for further testing. The penalties for boating under the influence mirror that of driving a vehicle under the influence. It includes significant fines, loss of operating privileges, and potentially jail time. Here's one of the PBTs that we use. This is very similar to what you see on television or on a roadside stop. It will accurately detect the presence of alcohol in a person's breath. And again, that can be used as a point of evidence to help us determine whether or not that subject should be placed in custody and taken for further testing, a legal blood draw or a breathalyzer at an approved breath testing facility.
Persons who operate non-power watercraft, such as canoes, kayaks, or paddleboards, sometimes do not believe that they're actually operating a boat. Under the definition of a boat here in Pennsylvania, canoes, kayaks, paddleboards all fall under the category as a boat. A person who may even operate such a non-powered boat, such as a canoe or kayak or paddleboard, upon the waters of the Commonwealth, if they are under the influence of alcohol and or controlled substance, they can also face the same penalties for boating under the influence, just as well as a person that's operating a powered watercraft, such as the boat you see here today behind us, or personal watercraft.
One of the pieces of safety equipment that we check for when performing a vessel safety inspection is the fire extinguisher. A couple things we check for is the serviceability. We make sure that the pin is in place, that the gauge is reading green, and that it on the label says U.S. Coast Guard approved. Some smaller fire extinguishers will actually have a plunger on the top that is the testing mechanism. Ensure that that safety pin is in place. Depress that plunger. As long as it returns quickly, that would indicate that it is serviceable. Another thing that you want to always check is to make sure that the nozzle is not plugged. Oftentimes, small mud wasps will build a nest in there, and it may prevent the fire extinguisher from discharging effectively. Fire extinguishers are required to be mounted in the vessel in a place that's easily accessible. Oftentimes people will have them rolling around in a hold in the vessel. That can lead to them discharging and rendering them unserviceable. And in the event of an emergency, it would not be any good to them. We actually have had a couple of fires on Harvey's Lake in the past where we were able to deploy fire extinguishers and prevent injury or further damage to the boat.
When we stop a watercraft for a violation we may observe, or if we're conducting a safety check on the things that we're looking for, we'll ask the operator of watercraft, and make sure that we see a wearable life jacket for each person on the boat. And pretty much, I tell you, the life jacket is only as good as if you wear it, to tell you the truth, because if you upset the boat and you can't get to your life jackets, the boat's going to go one way and you're going to go another way. There's usually no way you're going to get back to that life jacket. So it's only good as if you wear it, especially these smaller watercraft like canoe and kayaks and paddle boards.
When it comes to life jackets, there's several different types. This type is a wearable life jacket. This is a youth size. This is designed to, when worn, flip the wearer right side up so that their head is up out of water. So should they be injured in a fall overboard, it would actually keep their head up out of water where they would be able to breathe. Again, it is important that this is sized appropriately, and it has to be worn to be most effective. This is another style of wearable life jacket. This is what you would often see used for activities like water skiing or riding a personal watercraft or tube. Generally, it's going to be a little bit more comfortable than the first one that you saw because it doesn't have that high neck, but this is not designed to flip a wearer's face up out of the water. This is a style that we wear while we're on patrol. Many anglers have moved to wearing this type of life jacket. This is an inflatable. When you fall overboard or pull on the release, it will inflate a bladder inside and it will keep you up out of water. This particular model is designed with a head float, so it will right the wearer if it is being worn and adjusted properly. And the last style that I have here is a throwable. This is required on all boats 16 feet and over, and is required to be immediately accessible to the operator so that in the event of an emergency, they don't have to hunt around for it. They can grab it and immediately throw it to someone that fell overboard and that may need help. Oftentimes people will hand us an extra life jacket, a wearable, and say that this is what I'm going to use to throw to a potential victim. The problem is that they do not fly as designed. This is designed to be thrown, and it can be thrown a great distance with pretty decent accuracy.
That inflatable life jacket is only intended for persons 16 years of age and older. Also, that particular life jacket is not legal for someone to be wearing on a personal watercraft.
The last thing that we'd like to touch on regarding life jacket or personal flotation device use is the mandatory wear period. That period extends from November 1st until April 30th. At that time, all persons on boats less than 16 feet must wear a personal flotation device or life jacket at all times. Unfortunately, that rule came into play because that is a period of time when we have our greatest number of boating fatalities. Something as simple as wearing a life jacket can prevent a horrendous occurrence. It's important to remember that all children 12 and under are required to wear life jackets while boats are underway, unless that boat is over 20 feet. It's my personal opinion that they should wear them all the time. My children boat and they wear their life jacket at all times. If you're going on to a friend's boat, one of the most important things you should do when you first get on that boat is ask that operator where the safety equipment is. Not only will it be good that you know where it is, but it'll remind that operator to quickly go over that safety equipment and refresh their memory as to where the life jackets may be stored, where the fire extinguisher is, and might key them in to remember to put that type 4 out.
In the event something would happen to the operator of that boat and they would have to commandeer that boat. Secondly, I would strongly encourage that person, the non-boater, if they're getting onto a boat, that to make sure that the operator of the boat's sober. Okay, obviously if somebody's under the influence of alcohol or whatever, there's obvious signs that that person may be impaired. And certainly if you would see that as a non-boater, I'm not so sure you want to get on that boat.